SHP. So, Steve, if you are ready, let us turn it over. Come on, folks. We got the presentation about to start, so we need the conversations to stop.
I don't know if there's a way to control volume on this. Turn that down a little. Okay. Cool. There we go. Okay, my name is Steve Palmer. I'm fairly new to VWS, less than a year. New to a lot of things, so I feel like I'm in shark-invested waters here. One thing I learned over the last year from Bill was you have to start off with a riddle. So what did the field engineer do when his left rear tire was flat?
Call the field service technician.
He moved it over to the right side to see if the symptoms changed. All right. I'm not going to read all this. This is a little bit about me. I will post all these slides along with the video presentation so you can go through that. There are going to be a lot of hyperlinks in here for reference purposes, so feel free to look at that. I joined CERT about a year ago, year and a half ago. Realized there were many things in there ham related, so I went out and got a tech and a general license. I got credentialed in Aries in the summer, and I first learned of Winlink by talking to Brendan at last year's field day. So I asked for a little mentoring through this organization, and I didn't get any feedback. So most of what I've done here is I've learned it on my own, and I thought I'd share this with you guys. Okay, I want to preference this as everybody has different things they want to do. The requirements, are you going to work HF, VHF, UHF, whatever? Are you on a mobile, HT, or base station? A lot of people want to be able to use their PC to send out email. Some people just want to use their cell phone. Some people are Android users, some people are iMac users, whatever. And then your level of expertise in gadgeting. Can you build a Raspberry Pi? Can you write your own web servers? All that. What I'm trying to say is there are many ways to skin a cat. This is just one. Okay, my requirements were I wanted to be able to exchange email using my cell phone. And I wanted to be able to do this if we're off-grid, floating around out west, or if there's a power outage or just general service disruption. I, as a newbie, started off with a cheap Bofang HT, and I wanted something to prove the concept that would work with that, and then take whatever I did and apply it to higher-end equipment. So what is Winlink? Winlink is actually a system. You may hear the term Winlink Express. That is a individual piece of Winlink. There are many pieces to Winlink, but Winlink Express is just one small piece of it that runs on your PC. They changed the name on Winlink Express. It used to be called RMS Express. I think they added some confusion when they did that, but nonetheless, you may hear of Winlink, also called WL2K, Winlink 2000. They're all kind of the same. It is administered by volunteers, and it's supported by the Amateur Radio Safety Foundation. Winlink operates on all the bands. If you look up here, you can see that there's 2,800 nodes out there, RMS servers. If you can get to one of those, you can get your email out. The big difference between this, Winlink, and just normal APRS is Winlink lets you get out on the internet, not just peer-to-peer stuff. So if you look at this, when I looked at this first, I highlighted these in red. These are the most common things that people are using. They're down on 2 meter. They're running 1200 baud packet. So there's 908 stations out there that, that in theory you can get to. There's a couple of websites, URLs are on the bottom here, but these are all the nodes throughout the world that are operating packet Winlink. You can see the bulk of them are in North America. We'll flip over here one more. Now these are a different protocol, WinMore, which is used mostly in HF, and there's still plenty of receiving stations out there that you can contact, get your email out. Like APRS, Winlink can give position reports. The software, you can say log my position, and these are people, I think this was done back in August or so, that people can annotate their position to Winlink and it gets stored and whatnot. Zooming in on that, this is the US. There's not very many people using this for position reporting, but if you look down here, that's me showing up on their map as a registered position. So Winlink supports a lot of different protocols, not just packet. You have Pactor, WinMore, RDOP, you know, a bunch of them. And there's generally 3 modes that can operate. If you, the top one here, which is called, oops, let's go back one. It's Telnet. That actually lets you talk Winlink without a radio. You're just taking your home computer and getting out on using the internet to get the email out, but you're at least able to run the application. The packet Winlink is what I've been experiencing or experimenting with, and that's where you need an RMS station to communicate back and forth. All of these protocols have a peer-to-peer capability as well. So the 3 items shown in blue there are the ones I've been experimenting with. Kind of hard to see here, but one thing Winlink does is it lets you practice and practice and practice. So every Wednesday, they call them Winlink Wednesdays. There's a gent out in Virginia, Gary, that I think he briefed here a couple years ago. He runs a capability to let everybody check in. If you look real hard up here, you'll see a few of our members. KM4HRR, Brendan's up there, and Ron's up there, KR4EL, and I'm up there. So, you know, anyway, what that says is we get on every Wednesday and we send out emails directly to Gary and get end-to-end. So these are the components of Winlink. Like I said, Winlink is a system. It's not just one little piece. There is some common message servers out there. They hold the email and deal with that on an internet basis. We have radio mail servers that you talk to. You as an end user are running a radio mail client. You're talking RF to a radio mail server, and then the RMS talks over the internet to the common thing. So just because you can hit an RMS server doesn't mean your email's necessarily going to go out if he has no internet capability. Okay, but you can actually daisy chain these if you want. Okay, kind of hard to say. But, you know, APRS uses a single frequency. Winlink, anybody can use any frequency that they can talk on. It doesn't matter. You know, multiple RMS stations can be on the same frequency. You know, doing packet switching to navigate that. Down here on the bottom, again, this is a radio mail client can talk peer-to-peer to another radio mail client without need for an RMS station. So if you got a simplex channel, you know, you and your buddy can exchange traffic that way. So the bulk of this presentation is about the end user and the mail clients. And I've come up with 3 different scenarios of how this all gets put together on your home base station or whatever. One, you know, the basic components you need is an email client, you need a terminal node controller or a modem, and radio. And there's 3 different ways that you can implement the terminal node controller. One is it could be embedded in your radios. A lot of the newer Kenwood radios have that capability. The other one is where you're using your PC as the modem itself, and so you have the TNC embedded in software, and that talks to the radio. That little piece of yellow we'll talk about there, but that's basically like a signal link or isolation transformers or whatever to get your PC talking directly to your radio. And the last guy down here is kind of what I did, and that's a standalone TNC, and that would be the case for a signal link modem. But most of these things between the PC and the TNC are over serial protocols, either USB or Bluetooth. The rest of this stuff is going to be hardwired. So I'm going to go talk about here first the software. If you guys use Direwolf or Sound Modem, you all know that you need something to be able to key your radios, so you can go out and buy a little easy digikit, you know, anything with an isolation transformer. The Kenwoods and the Bofungs, you know, to key the radio, you're shorting grounds on 2 different jacks, and if you try to use straight through cables, you're going to key your mic indefinitely, so you can't you got to use something in between there. So the little piece of gear will do that. That's the schematic of the mic and speaker jacks on the radio. And this, I found some guy created this thing, and it's pretty bulky, but it's used to just it uses a serial port to key the mic, and speaker goes through an isolation transformer, and mic goes through an isolation transformer, so the grounds don't short that way. The third approach here, again, trying to concentrate a little more, is where the TNC is a separate box like the signal link. And I've listed on the right side multiple choices in this that I've looked at. Besides the signal link, the tiny track 4, there's a couple other ones. And I went with the top one there, which is the Mobile Link TNC3. And I did that because it has a very small footprint, good for walking around. It's got a USB rechargeable battery. Battery will last an easy day without having to recharge it. You can talk to that TNC either through Bluetooth or through the USB cable. And I found that they have mostly pigtails for almost any kind of radio you want. Only caution I give you on the TNC3 is you need to make sure you get the firmware updated. They made some really neat changes over the last 6 months in the product. One is in the past you had to open up the squelch on your radio. Now they can run it without doing that. That's pretty cool. And a few other things. There's a little bit involved in doing the firmware updates, but it's nothing that you can't find out on the internet how to do. So once we get the TNC in position, then we want to look at the actual user interface to the mail client. And there are several out there, but a lot of them are platform dependent. The most popular one is Winlink Express, but it only runs on a PC. And that's not good if you're a Mac user or whatever, or you're trying to run it off your cell phone. You're in trouble with that. The one I settled on was called PAT. It's can run both on Linux and Windows. I'm using it on Linux under a Raspberry Pi and able to talk to it through just a browser. So that's what we're showing down here. So those are kind of the two modes that we like. Now this is my setup. One of two ways I can operate it. There's my laptop, and I Bluetooth to the terminal node controller, and it's got a little pigtail into my radio. And that's all that's needed to get email out other than a decent antenna. You're good to go. If you noticed on here, we have a GPS plugged into the PC. Most PCs don't have GPS capability in them. But what you want to do for Winlink is you need to know your location for position reporting, number one. And number two is once you know your position, you can have Winlink tell you the nearest RMS stations. So from my house, I can look and I can see, well, Brendan's got one running and he's 6 miles away, and there's one in Reston, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so we'll show you a couple of screen slides on that, but the idea with the GPS is know where you're at. So if you're truly mobile, you're in a car, you're down south 200 miles and you want to find the nearest RMS stations, you can do that as long as you've got good coordinates. This is my mobile setup. No PC now, but the browser is running in my Android phone. And what I've done with the Raspberry Pi is I've turned it into a hotspot. So the PAT, which is the email software itself, runs on the Raspberry. I've moved the GPS out of my PC and into the Raspberry, because that's where the client software is, and that's where you need to know where you're at. The GPS 2 offers capability with the Raspberry to give you current time. So I'm pulling time off of the GPS system. The Raspberry doesn't have a battery backup. So when you reboot it, it has not a clue what time it is. So you need something to restore that on the fly. I found the Raspberry pulls very little current, about 300 milliamps. You take a little power pack stick, and that'll be good for 7 hours of uptime just running the Raspberry. So everything you need to do is right now it's in my pockets. Okay, so you know, I mean, it truly is portable. That's my Raspberry running. I just take that out, radio out, DNC out, plug it in, and I'm good to go. Oops, not quite. I need the cell phone. All right, so everything I had in my pocket, and you can get email out should you have some kind of service disruption on the internet and cell phone towers. So let's go back for the TNC. The only thing you need to worry about on the TNC is you don't want to too much volume on your radio. So they give you a little tool that runs that you can control the volume. Once you learn where the volume needs to be set for the TNC not to overdrive your radio, you never need to use the tool again. But it's a good little feature. There's both a PC version of this and an Android version of it. So either way, you can learn the sweet spot on your radio, and you're good to go. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about Winlink Express, the actual email client that's running on the PC. It's free software, but there's a little nagware up front. You got to wait about 5-10 seconds when you first start it up. It's trying to get you to donate some money, but you don't have to. Just wait a few minutes, hit the remind me later, and you're good to go. Certainly enough to piddle. The big difference between the Winlink email software and Google Mail or whatever is there's no send button per se. What you do when you're composing an email is once your email is complete, you post it to an outbox, and then it sits in the outbox until you are ready to transmit it. So there's one little additional step in doing that, but other than that, it's about the same. So when you start Winlink up, here it says there's nothing in my inbox right now, and I've sent a couple of emails, and this is showing the emails sent. If I want to compose a message, I just go up here to message up here, click on that, and it brings up a form. If you look closely at this form, you'll see that the address is actually an internet address. It's my Google Mail address. Okay, so Winlink has its own email addresses. Mine would be something like kwforshp@winlink.org. So everybody that's on the Winlink system will have a Winlink address, but again, you can use it to get out on the internet. So once you get the message sitting in your outbox, which is right here, we're looking at the outbox, it's showing one message, and this is what I composed, just a little simple test message. Then it's time to open up a session, and this is where you want to tell the client how to get the email out, whether you're going to go directly over the internet with Telnet Winlink, or you're going to use Packet Winlink and talk to an RMS station on the 2-meter bands, or maybe you're going to use one of these other protocols, if you're on HF and you're going to do WinMore or whatever, or if you're going to go straight peer-to-peer. So you pick the session you want. We're going to pick the Packet Winlink here, and there's some initial settings on this that you do one time and that's it, but you're basically telling it how to talk to, you're telling the client how to tell the TNC to talk to your radio, what kind of protocols you're using. In my case, I'm just using KISS. If you have a Kenwood or something that's got an embedded TNC, there may be a different way to talk to that, and that's all the choices you have here. Once you get the settings right and you're ready to go, the next thing is to find a station to talk to. So we go through this business of this channel selection, and this is based on my location. All right, so from my house, I've given it GPS coordinates so it knows where I'm at, and it's listing all the closest RMS station. There's Brendan's. These are some other popular ones that I've had success with, but all of them are listed there. Depending on the band you are, it's going to be different list of nodes you can go to. And once you pick a node, it'll give you the frequency. If your radio is capable of auto-tuning that, Winlink can do that for you. In my case, I just look up here and see what frequency to use and manually tune the radio in my handheld, and then I'm good to go. The big difference between running Winlink Express on a PC and running PAT on a Raspberry with a browser interface is the Winlink PC version of this can do ICS forms. If you're into Aries or CERT or whatever, everybody has form, FEMA wants forms. Okay, Winlink's got them all built in. In this case, when you're composing a message, you can select a template, and here there are templates for anything and everything you'd ever want to do. A lot of the Winlink Wednesday test messages are based on ICS 213. So that form's up there. You choose the form, pick it, and that launches your browser and throws the form up in it for you to fill out. So busy, 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 you type it all in, hit submit. And there is the composed message down here. Now what it does, in order for the distant end to get the form back, it actually takes the form XML and creates an attachment. That's what the little yellow job is there is an attachment to this that is used to, it's an XML file to use to construct the form back on the distant end. So if I take a form, fill it out, send it to somebody that's also running Winlink, the form will get recreated on their end, and they can print it off and do what they want. Okay, the Raspberry Pi, like I said, you need the GPS dongle. You want to set the time when you're off the grid. Used to update the grid square so you can get your nearby RMS stations, and it can be used to post Winlink position reports. The Raspberry Pi is running a couple of things on it. It's running the hotspot so that your cell phone or whatever can get to it. It's running its own web server. We'll show you that in a second. And then I've added my own server to it to do some spiffy little things, so I don't ever have to telnet into it or SSH into it or VNC or whatever. I can do everything from a browser. Again, Aries ICS templates aren't available on the Raspberry. They're only available on Winlink Express. If you really get into it, I'm offering my services the way I built this Raspberry. I can clone the SD card and give it to you, and you're up and running in a few minutes. I can also give you the instructions to build it from the ground up if you want. I documented everything along the way. So if you're into Chrome or whatever and have bookmarks, these are my bookmarks. And again, there's basically 3 web servers that are running. The top one is the email server that will bring up a nice GUI for you to compose messages with. The second one is the Raspberry's built-in configuration tool. That's all web-driven too. So that one's running on port 80, and the other one's running port 8080. All the other ones are my own web server and things I want to do. And so if I want to get a new list of RMS stations, I've got a link here to do that, just to download them and list them so that I can pick and choose without having to do anything with a telnet session or whatever. If I need to reboot the Raspberry or restart all the Winlink systems, I can do it from the GUI as opposed to getting on the Raspberry itself. This is the PAT email client, sort of like the Winlink client, same type of thing. It's got an inbox and an outbox to post messages to, and then some parameters to send it out. Down here, it's blank right now, but that's kind of a log file to let you see what's going on during your an active session. So to compose a message, I just you start with new message, build it in. Again, I'm using this from my browser on my cell phone or whatever. This is the one thing I said where I have my own web server running where I can say, give me a link, a list of the current closest RMS stations. And when I'm ready to actually connect to it, and I'm up here using this send button up here, hard to see, but you can tell what kind of transport. In this case, it's AX25, and that's the node I want to go to. The list I had back on the previous slide would have told me the frequency to use for that, so I can tune my radio. Good to go with that. Then as the message goes out, again, the log file down here, you'll see it transitioning, so you can see the progress of that. So these are my two use cases. The top one is platform independent from a user interface. Could be a browser on any machine, Safari on a Mac, an iPhone or a browser on an Android, doesn't matter. But that's the scheme of that. And the bottom one is if I really need to use Winlink Express because of the ICS forms and I have to use a PC, I can eliminate the Raspberry that way. No Raspberry needed since the Winlink Express talks directly to the TNC3. So those are the kind of two modes that I've done there. So if you're interested, these next few slides are how to get started, how I got started. Winlink.org is where you want to go. You can download the Winlink Express client for your PC. You can use it without ever having a radio because it has the capability of using the client going straight out over the internet. They don't want you to use that during the Winlink Wednesday test. They want to make sure you're doing end-to-end through your radios, but you can still use it to practice to send composed messages, add attachments, send them to yourself, to your Gmail account or whatever. You can do all that. And there's some good stuff out on YouTube for all this stuff. If you go to Ham Radio Concepts and look up TNC3, you'll see how I built all this. Make sure you get a decent GPS device for your PC. I picked two. One is a dongle type, and the other one is got a cord on it, so you can hang it on your rooftop on your car if you're mobile. I made sure that both of these work either in a PC or in the Raspberry Pi. Verified all that, so they're good to go. Winlink Express recognizes it directly, and I wrote some software to pick it up on the Raspberry Pi. Bunch of links here, too difficult to read, but I documented everything I bought, everything I did, what sites I went to. Well, like I said, I'll post these on the internet so that you can actually click on the links and get to them. Okay, about 3 more slides here and I could do that. So here's some resources on TNCs, resources on the various Winlink email clients, PAT or Winlink Express, and a bunch of resources for the Raspberry Pi. There's a few extra stuff I found. There's some training on that. If you found Georgia Aries has a nice little 1-hour training video. It's pretty good. Interestingly enough, I found this last link here with Greg Butler and found out that he presented something similar to this a couple of years ago, but it was a little bit higher level than I was actually trying to build and get it to work. And his stuff was at a higher level, but that video is certainly out there. Okay, I got my 5-minute mark. Perfect. Yes, sir.
When you're doing mobile, or you were saying you're off-grid and you're using the Android, and you're trying to update, particularly a VHF or UHF, you want to update your channel list, but you're off grid. How does that work? Where are you getting an updated list from?
Well, you can actually download the updated link over RF, but you have a chicken before the egg. If you know where you're going, when you download the list, you can download that before you leave, and it just is the list is the entire world, but it's just a snapshot in time. So if you update the list every week or so, then you go off grid, you go traveling, well, that list is still good. It's resident on the Raspberry or on the PC. Winlink, the Winlink client holds it. Okay, so on a PC, it's holding it in Winlink Express. On a Raspberry, it's holding it in PAT.
Memory or storage?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes. Yes.
What's the community looking for in terms of, support and use in emergency communications? For example, is the community, whatever it may be, looking for folks like us to set up RMS stations, for example? What's
Well, that one is probably above my pay grade, and my partner in crime, Brendan, didn't show tonight, so I want to defer that to him. He just recently stood up an RMS station. Okay, I have yet to make contact with it, but he's like down in the valley in Reston, and we're dealing with, I think, line of sight issues, but I'm not sure. But it doesn't take much to put an RMS station up, other than, a spare radio. But where I think this is going to work best is on the HF bands. Because if you're going to have some apocalyptic failure of the grid here or cell towers, you want to communicate somebody way out there, not 2 miles away from you. If you're dead, they're probably dead too. So I'm looking more usefulness if you're on the HF bands. Yes, sir.
Quick questions. One, when you go to a station and they're off the air, how does this tell you that they're off the air? And two, I can do FLDigi, I can do FT8 without a TNC on HF. Why do I need a TNC with this?
They should be using like Winmore.
Oh, okay.
Winmore and.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You don't need to do that. As far as whether you know they're on the air or not, there is when you try to connect on this end, it'll let you know, log files, whether it's successfully connected and how much data you're pushing down or pulling up. You know instantly whether the connection was successful. Yes?
Where Aries is using NVIS to Richmond as the link, and presumably if we were having trouble with local communications, getting local communications out of the area, long distance communications from here, that would be typical of the connection that we need to make, I think. So anybody who can set up an NVIS antenna to reach some nearby city, Baltimore, or someplace else that does have communications, if that were the issue.
Yeah, above my pay grade. Okay.
On that. I weekly check in like 300-mile range on 40 meters. It's extremely consistent. So I've got my favorite stations, within that range, 40 meters, early in the morning on Winlink Wednesday, and maybe it takes 2 or 3, and then I'll hit one. It's really, really well.
Like I said, the best thing to do is HF on this. Yes, sir.
According to Wikipedia, there's a lot of concern within the community, within the amateur radio community, that parts of this are proprietary and encrypted, both of which seem to go against the whole principles of ham radio.
I've read that too, but that hasn't stopped anybody from doing this, so I don't know how accurate that is. I prefer to think of it not as encrypted, but encoded, as far as over the airways. Now, where I set up a hotspot, clearly that link is going to have WPA encryption, web encryption, just general Wi-Fi. But after that, once it gets out on the radio, Winlink, as far as I know, is not encrypting anything. Many people have watched my traffic go across, you know. Right, and there are alternatives here to Pactor too, but yeah. One more.
I had a question about the served agency forms. Are those kept in a common database?
They get updated constantly. When you start Winlink up, you'll see, hey, I've got an update to you, and they will update new forms as they come out.
I have the forms on my database. I just send the data, and whoever picks it up has the database. with the
Well,
form that he integrates with.
the XML to reconstruct the form is sent as an attachment. Okay, so your email, you know, the form looks nice and graphical, but it's not. It's condensed into a very small XML file.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Fantastic. All right, we've had a fantastic meeting tonight. I want to thank all of our presenters. I want to thank Rebecca and Steve for the food. Absolutely magnificent, as always. And this wraps up this meeting of the Vienna Wireless Society. We'll see you in 2 weeks.